Hey guys, this is Bell. I'm making a small guide on how to use Viserio cooldowns, method rating tools, and Kaze MRT timers. This is mainly for the Mythic team, but I'm gonna be posting this in Coach as well, in case anyone on the Heroic team wants to up their game and raid. So, what this trio basically does, method rating tool is an add-on that lets you set notes for timers on bosses. Kaze MRT converts those notes into visual displays on your screen when you have to cast certain abilities, and Viserio helps you make those notes so that you have an easy to use interface when creating them and you understand how your cooldowns go. I'll start with Viserio. So first thing you want to do is you want to go into Viserio CD's Planner Raid. All of these will be linked in the embed. Once you're in here, you will see this page. There's a lot of empty slots. In my case, um, there's some that's already been done. That's for the Mythic team. The first thing it'll prompt you to do is log in with your Balnet. Make sure you do so. On this page, you'll see previous raid tiers, current raid tiers. So if you're seeing this in the future, you're probably on a different raid. And then you can pick between heroic and mythic. Make sure you pick the right difficulty, as bosses have different abilities depending on the difficulty they're on. Now once you've selected everything you need to do here, you know you want to do mythic. All you have to go is go by the boss's name that you want to plan out and click this green plus sign. Once you do so and the page loads, you will get this. First things first, you want to add your character. In my case, I'm a demon hunter. I am Vengeance. My name is Belial's. 1 second. So you want to make sure you input your name correctly. If you do not, nothing will work because method rating tools and Kaze, they need your name to be spelled exactly as you spell it in game. Alright, so if you have any special characters, make sure you add those here. Now for visibility, let's go over this real quick. These are all the things you can see. Major cooldowns refer to cooldowns that are major for the entire raid. Think rally, darkness, so on and so forth. Minor cooldowns are the same, except they're not major, right? They're just minor. Group DR means damage resistance for the group. Think Zephyr, mass barrier, so on. Group mobility, roar, windrush totem. Group mobility, mobility by itself, that's just your personal mobility. Utility, think stuff like, I don't know, earth elemental or like rescue. Externals, sack, brain suppress. Defensives, those are your class defensives. In my case, I have a lot because I'm a tank, but DPS have less. Immunities, think Netherwalk, Bop, Cloak of Shadows. DPS cooldowns, if you're a DPS, this is where your cooldowns will show up. CC, stuff like, I don't know. In my case, it's Imprison and Sigil of Chain and Chaos Nova. It's just crowd control effects. Class CDs, these are where CDs go that aren't DPS CDs. So if you are a healer or like a tank, mainly a tank, but this is where you'll see your class CDs. Health pots, self-explanatory, shows you Algari healing potions and health stones. Potions shows you the normal potions that you use, like your tempered power potions that you have to use through fights. Trinkets again shows you if you have any unused trinkets. Only use this if your trinkets actually need to be timed. Personal stacks you never have to use. It literally just means use personals now, right? This is a raid lead feature, you don't have to use it. Notes is an important feature, and this one lets you set whatever note you want at any timeline you want. And that's about it. Alright, so when 1 minute 25 seconds come up, I'll get a note that says ha ha ha. Alright, now that all of these are known, I need to mention the following thing. For DPS, what I expect you to guys do is mainly your defensives and DPS cooldowns. There will be abilities such as Darkness, Mass Barrier, Zephyr that affect a larger number of people, which I will be mapping out for you guys. So in the embed that's gonna hold this video, I also have a list of abilities you do not want to map out here. All right, simply because you don't want them to overlap with the abilities that I have mapped out. So make sure before you do this, you check the abilities that I mentioned not to map out, and don't map them out. All right. Default doesn't default clear and all. These are just like the basics. If you want to select all, keep in mind that, for example, if I plot metamorphosis and then I remove CDs, metamorphosis is still plotted even if I can't see it. So when I make a note, it'll still be there. All right, it's just not visible. All right, so let's go over this interface over here. First, we have boss's abilities. We can click any of the boss abilities. It'll bring us to this page. Over here, we can read through all these abilities and see what they do. It tells you danger level, type of damage, if it's avoidable. This works great for rogue when they can cast their extra avoidance ability. Recommended CDs for healers, and then a quick description. Alright, secondly, over here you can see that we can also highlight all of these abilities. There's everyone, tanks, healers, DPS, melee, and ranged. No, you guys don't care about anything above here. You only care about what's in your character's box. These are for raid leaders. They're still there. There's no way to remove them, but you don't want to be plotting anything up there. All you want to do is plot down here. Alright, and same as with boss, if I were to click our ability here, it'll take us to the Wowhead page for metamorphosis with an explanation of what it does. However, if I click darkness, I believe it'll take me to a different page, or maybe not darkness, but I know some abilities have pages exactly like this one, important raid abilities, right, that usually want to get mapped out. Now that that's done, let's talk about this up here. So as you can see, there's timers on every ability. These timers are always the same. The main important thing, the main important thing is these timers aren't set to the moment the cast is starting. It's set at the time the cast is ending. So at 3:32, that's when the damage goes out, not when the cast starts. So you want to make sure, if you plot a defensive for 3:32, in my case, let's say I'm doing darkness, I want to click it exactly on 3:32, and I want to make sure I cast this by 3:32, not after. You will also see these red lines. These red lines indicate phase changes. The way the add-on works in the background is, instead of counting time throughout the whole fight, it's only counting until a phase ends, right? So it's doing phase 1 into phase 2, and then as soon as the phase ends, it resets those timers. That ensures the abilities are always right. So you never have to account for like phases ending faster or slower, right? All you have to do is just click the ability at the selected time, and it will always show up accordingly and correct inside of the game. That's because the timer is considering whenever I put an ability at 3:14, the way the thing works internally is it's not thinking that it's 3:14, it's thinking the second come around at phase 1 at 7 seconds in. That's what the add-ons are thinking. So they're always going to be on the right marks. And these times are more to help you understand like throughout the fight. Lastly, let's talk about how this ability looks. If you see here, I have an empty box in front. This tells me that I can't put anything in here unless it will overlap. If I do overlap it, it will go red. If I put it outside of this box, it means it doesn't overlap and it'll be normal. This purple box that's shaded in means the exact same thing, but for ahead of the ability. And then these slash lines here mean that this is the time in which the ability is under effect. These lines are important because, for example, if I were to cast my ability at 340, I would have meta as a mitigation for the raid AoE at 340, and since meta lasts until 355, I will also be mitigating the raid soak with it and any damage after. Alright. So, what I expect of DPS and everyone is to plot down their defensives. When you plot down defensives, this is the following mindset you need to have. You look at the abilities and you set your priorities of which spells are the most dangerous. You set those as priority 1 and you make sure you do your best to have every priority 1 spell covered by a defensive. The next most important spells are priority 2, the ones that you'll be fine if you don't always use defensives, and then try to plot as many as those as you can. Priority 3 are abilities that using a defensive of them is only used if you can if you actually have anything left over and you just want to go above and beyond. You'll be fine even if you don't use a defensive, but you're just trying to make everyone's life easier. For DPS cooldowns, the way you want to think about this is think about where you want to cast your cooldowns. For example, on Olgrax, there's ads in the second phase, and let's say you cast your abilities at 210, your big offensive CDs, and then you realize this wasn't a good place to cast them because ads aren't grouped and you have to dodge charges. So what you would do is you'd look in raid, you'd wait for the moments the ad group and make a mental note of about how many seconds away it was from the last charge. In this case, let's say it's 3 seconds away. So I cast my ability at 223, and I've marked in my head that this is when ads start to like get together, so this is the best use for my offensive cooldown, and you want to do this for everything, right? That's pretty much it with this. Let's go into the next part. I will be plotting a couple abilities down randomly. Of course, you guys don't want to do it randomly. You want to have a clear intent as to what you're doing at all times. We're going to plot this down, and what's next? We're going to make sure we save. This doesn't auto-save. You want to save yourself, and we're going to copy MRT note. Then we were going to go into WoW. If you have the method rating tools icon, you can just /MRT and it will bring it up. Under notes, first thing and foremost, make sure it's enabled. If it's not enabled, nothing will work. Alright, as you can see, I've made a couple screens here, but just for making it easier for you guys to see, I'll be removing all the drafts and add them. For someone new, this is all you're gonna see. You're not gonna see anything in personal note. You're not gonna see anything in note. It's all gonna be blank, and you're gonna have 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 are save spots. If you paste something in here, it will not go away. It'll stay the way it is until you manually alter it. So you wanna select 1. You wanna select the boss you've done your timers for. You can name it whatever you want. My plan. And then you want to paste those timers in. Alright, once you've done this, you want to make sure you don't click this. Do not click move to clean copy, save and send. It's already saved. You don't have to save it again. This is only for the raid lead to do. If you were to do it, it would send this into note, and if you're not an assist in the raid, your note feature will do nothing. Right, what we want to use instead is set as personal note. This makes it so that these timers are only set for yourself. Now you cannot see my notes right now because I don't have them enabled. In settings, the very next tab, you have a bunch of options as to where to see this. My recommendation is to always hide outside of party or raid, show only in raid, and hide during combat. Alright, if we unclick these things, you will see that my note appears, and over here I can see the timers that I have throughout the fight. If you can see, this golden time begins repeating itself, right? So I have 001, 002. How can 01 be before 02? Well, the actual time of the fight is the white timers. This is times during phase. So what 002 actually means is at 2 seconds within the second phase. Alright, well, the second go around. So after the first feast is done, that's when like the fight starts again and repeats. That's how dynamic timers work, so that's why you never have to worry about anything but importing from that spreadsheet. Now, we can see it highlights my name. If there's multiple people who are sharing the same time with you, which will only happen in the general note that the raid leader sends out, if there's multiple people, you'll see multiple people on that row. However, when you use Kaze MRT timers, it'll only show you the abilities that affect you. Likewise, if there's a note and a personal note at the same time, Kaze MRT timers will show you both. So don't worry, right? You can see both the raid leader's note and the personal note you said. Now, as a rule of thumb, the raid leader will not cover your defensives, will not cover your offensive CDs, so you're safe to use those. Alright? Unless specifically instructed in that list to not use an ability, then you're free to use whatever else is left. That said, if you do put your ability for a that put one of your abilities that coincides with a boss cast, it will also tell you why exactly you're casting it for. As you can see here, Venomous Lash, Belial's. Alright. So once you've done this, between pulls, after each pull, you want to think about how your fight went, think about moments to improve it, think about moments that hurt you really hard, or maybe your cooldowns weren't optimal, or maybe you cast your cooldowns and they overlapped, and then you would go back to this spreadsheet. Let's say, for a matter of fact, I put my cooldowns at 441, and I don't realize, oh shit, I am soaking at 441, and I just wasted my entire cooldown. So I'd be moving my cooldown from 441 to 1 minute. I don't have to do anything for a significant amount of time now, so I can just sit on the boss and DPS. Right, so I've made that change. Maybe my other change is gonna be, oh, at 441 I actually want to cast Darkness. Alright, so once you've made all your changes, let's add a couple more spells here. You're gonna save your note again, copy to MRT. You'll go back here. You will not be going into note or personal note. You'll be going back into Olgrax My Plan. You can either highlight with your mouse everything, or you can control all and then control paste and set as note. And my notes just changed. Everything is fine now, and this is all you need to do. So between pulls, every fight, you want to keep doing this to make your timers better and better. And now lastly, let's talk about Kaze MRT timers. Now, again, quick mention, make sure you enable this. If you do not, it won't work. And make sure your name is exactly as yours is spelled in game. Alright, let me go back to settings. Set this so I don't see it anymore. Again, hide outside the party of raid. Show note only in raid. Hide during combat. MRT also allows you to set raid cooldowns and has a lot of other like interesting looks at what's happening. Most of these are raid leader only, but there are a couple that you might find really useful, like raid cooldowns. Let's close MRT for now and go into our Kaze weak aura. Over here I have Kaze MRT timers. You don't really care about anything. Over here, group scale, make it larger or make it smaller. I suggest leaving it the same for the most part. The one thing that does interest you is custom option. Over here, warn duration, how many seconds ahead of time you want to be warned about abilities. For healers, I would suggest putting it at around 15 seconds so you have time to ramp if you have a ramp. For DPS, 8 seconds is fine or less. Below it, you'll see enable countdown 3, 2, 1. This is just a small countdown before you have to cast. And then enable text to speech. Text to speech will be blurt out Kaze MRT timers icons or in 8 seconds, right? If that's something you find annoying, you're free to disable this as well if you only want a visual reminder. Now, as a quick summary, go into Viserios, select your boss, plot down your abilities, make sure you're covering your defensives and offensive abilities, always save, copy MRT note, make sure your name is correct and identical to your name in game, go back into game, do slash MRT, uh, MRT, whoops, slash MRT, there we go. Go into notes. Under notes, make sure it's enabled. Select one of the numbers, make a pre-saved place, control, paste the new thing, and then set as personal note. Make sure these are your settings right here, and make sure between pulls you always improve your timers to make sure you have the best possible performance on the boss. And that'll be it. Use this however you want, however it makes you be a better player. People in Mythic, this is pretty much mandatory. I expect you to be doing this for every boss fight. In Heroic, use this if you wanna increase your performance and your understanding of the bosses. That'd be it. If you have any further questions or want to go into more details about timers, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help you out. Thank you. Have a good day.